Well, to me, I believe homicide's the ultimate crime, and just the challenge of solving that and looking at it as a puzzle, and starting with almost nothing and building it to the top to where it hopefully ends up in a conviction.
There is absolutely nothing worse that you can do to another human being than to take their life, and that someone should be able to do that and then walk away from it with no consequences is, to me, unacceptable. And so putting my effort into making sure that they didn't walk away without having to face the consequences of what they'd done was basically the whole reason for doing it, was to make sure that they were held accountable for what they'd done and were not in a position to be able to do it again.
I would look at it as a case that you've run out of leads, interviews are drying up, and you've looked at the evidence that you have, and you've done everything that you can with it at that time. And as it goes on, you're just up against the wall and looking for new avenues to explore. There's, again, no real set time limit, just whatever that turns out to be, it is.
We covered 5 counties. And if we needed to go outside those 5 counties, we went there too, because basically they gave us the freedom to go out and do whatever was necessary to make sure that we closed those cases. And with that freedom and that manpower, we did close a lot of cases.
That the 48 hours after the homicide occurred is the most critical time period. Once you start getting past that, you're starting to run into some more of these roadblocks of locating people and evidence and investigation avenues. The first thing we would do is gather everything as far as the evidence that would have been preserved with that case. Look for what we can resubmit to the lab, and at the time it was mainly looking for DNA evidence. That was the new thing at the time. And what we could resubmit and have classified. Then we would begin reorganizing the case itself as far as family members, suspects that may have been involved, re-alphabetizing every interview in there, and then just going through and looking at each one, and then making, as a group, a case strategy on which direction we'd want to go and who to focus on. Just evidence itself, witnesses disappearing over time, due to death, relocation, name changes.
There's so many times that you feel in your gut that you know who did it, but you just can't get enough to make the arrest, and that's frustrating, very frustrating.
It weighs on your mind, but you just have to realize that that's not what you're here for. You have to move on.
I was at the State Police Academy in Hershey. We had to do 6 months of training. Had gone in June 22nd, was due to graduate December 6th. And this homicide happened Halloween. So we were getting close to graduation, biting at the bit. We wanted to get out there already, tired of training. And I came up for a weekend, and I read in the Morning Herald that they had found this body, and there was a photograph of the detectives and the command post and everything. And I thought, boy, if I was out now, I could be working on this. Well, little did I know that, number one, as a new trooper, you weren't coming back to your home station. We're your home troop back then. And as a new trooper, if you're going to do anything, you're going to protect the scene, and that's it. But all those years later, it went unsolved, and it fell into our laps, the cold case squad, and we looked at it, and we were able to make the arrest and get the conviction. So that one, I think, because I was familiar with it before I actually became a trooper. I was still in training.
Some of the families were very supportive and very happy with what we did. And I remember one family, when we walked up onto the porch and told them that we were making an arrest in the murder of their daughter. This was a case from 1977. And the mother literally threw us off the property, because it was like ripping open a scar. They'd had many years to not necessarily deal with it, but at least come to grips with it and learn to survive. And then you would walk in and just rip that right open with, well, now we're investigating this again.
I remember when I told them that we were going to make an arrest, and they cried, and my tears, I got tears in my eyes too. I mean, I knew the niece just from years ago in school. I just met the sister, but you know, it's, if you're human, you're going to react.
One of the things that makes things a whole lot easier for people now than even back in the late 90s is they have expanded the offender database. When they passed the law that said everybody who has been convicted of a homicide or a rape is required to provide a sample to go into a national database, they started all over the country getting DNA hits. Most of the cold case homicide hits actually came out of the burglaries. That people would get arrested for burglary, they'd go into the DNA database, and you'd find out that they'd also committed a homicide. And now they take DNA samples from everybody who has been convicted. And because of that, we have a much larger database to draw from for current homicides, as well as any of the cold case ones. And it could be a year, it could be 6 months, it could be 2 years later, where you think, oh, it's cold, it's dead, we've got no leads. And then all of a sudden you just get a call from the lab that says, hey, we got your guy, because he got arrested in another jurisdiction. So the DNA stuff has become a completely invaluable tool for solving all those cases.